Oh, bike share programs exist in most other cities, which is not true. Many. I can do that on the fly, though, if... Okay.
Which one was it after?
It's after Attorney General Mark Brnovich.
Okay.
Before, and I wanted to take a moment to talk.
Bike share?
Yeah.
Many other cities?
Many other cities. I think most is a little bit of a stretch.
And then just that weird sentence?
Yeah.
Which one was that? Was that the...
Oh God, where was that?
It was like the one just before that recent headline you did.
Sanctuary, oh, that's...
Maybe it was the monitoring. Oh, here it is. And the director will be subject to being fired at will by the president. I don't know how to phrase that, though.
Where is that Choice Act? Okay, a bill introduced by Jeb Hensarling will curtail the power of CFPB, causing it to lose its independent status.
It's the Dodd.
Yeah, no, I got it. Causing it to lose its independent status. And the director would be subject to... How about just subject to termination at will?
It sounds much better.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
We'll just go from there.
Okay. And I... This is 5 on 20 News with Luc Goodhart. We are coming to you live from our studios in downtown Tucson. It's Wednesday, April 12th. First, let's talk local headlines. Attorney General Jeff Sessions took a little visit to the border yesterday, delivering a speech in Nogales. There, Sessions said that the Trump administration was ready to ramp up efforts to detain and prosecute, quote, all adults who are apprehended at the border. He announced in the press conference that this is the Trump era, and he was able to say this without cracking a smile. Sessions focused on the MS-13, a violent gang from El Salvador who has outposts all over the country. But he forgot to mention that the MS-13 was formed after Salvadorians were deported in the 1980s under the Reagan administration. Once back in El Salvador, the gangs were able to increase their power base and are known to terrorize wide areas of the largely lawless country. The Hill reported that Sessions left a piece out of his speech where he referred to the gangs as, quote, filth, apparently deciding that it was in poor taste, which is unusual for a member of the Trump administration. However, a version of the speech was circulated through the media that showed the original language. Whoops. Arizona Representative Raul Grijalva said that Sessions would find in Nogales that the community is completely at odds with this depiction of life on the border. He said that the administration hasn't bothered to learn what the community's needs actually are and instead are taking advantage of photo ops near the wall. He said that if the administration really wanted to solve the problem, they would have conversations with the men and women who live near the border. Grijalva called Sessions a, quote, white supremacist and said that his agency is throwing the book at immigrants just for being immigrants. During the press conference, Sessions announced that the Justice Department would seek felony charges for anyone caught crossing the border after they'd already been sent back. He also said that he would increase prosecutions for those who give aid to people trying to cross the border. Finally, he announced that the administration was hiring 50 more immigration judges to handle the already huge backlog of immigration cases. Sessions ended his speech by asking the crowd if they'd seen Sean Spicer's glorious press conference earlier that day. The crowd responded with silence and awkward looks around the room before an aide brought Sessions up to speed. He quickly exited the room without another word. Both Maricopa and Pima counties have experienced a population surge in 2016, according to a state population report. Maricopa added more people last year than any other county in the nation, according to the report, with Pinal County following close behind. Pima County gained about 8,000 new residents. The state added a total of 113,000 people last year, with 81,000 moving to Maricopa County, boosting the county's population to 4.2 million. However, Pinal County had the fastest growth, adding over 12,000 people. Experts say this is because many people who work in Phoenix decide to live in Pinal County because housing is more affordable. The average median price of a home is about $100,000 less than in Maricopa, according to the website Zillow. A report by Arizona State University and the McCain Institute found huge increases in human trafficking nationwide over the past 6 years. The report found that 75% of trafficking cases were victims who were under the age of 18, with the average age being 15. In all, they studied about 1,400 cases of human trafficking from 46 states. Their aim was to look at how vulnerable people are lured into the traffickers' arms and how they victimize young people. They found that from 2010 to 2015, there was a 271% increase in reported sex trafficking, with 4,663 victims over the last 6 years. The study found that the most common way traffickers trap their victims was through promises of money, with promises of shelter being the second most common reason. Arizona teachers sent Governor Ducey a proper deuce yesterday in return for his support of expanding vouchers in the state. 6 state teachers of the year met with Ducey on Tuesday and presented him with a letter that talked about teacher shortages and accused the governor of dishonesty. Teachers are furious that Ducey chose to expand vouchers at the expense of public schools, especially after he shilled for Prop 123. This law released $3.5 billion from a state trust land fund to be used for education. Teachers are now accusing the governor of funneling this money to private interests where vouchers are used. Beth Maloney, one of the teachers of the year, said that she felt betrayed and that Ducey played her and the Arizona taxpayers. Last week, Ducey passed a law that expanded the state's school voucher program to all 1.1 million Arizona public school students over the next 4 years, although an amendment limits this number to only 30,000 after 2022. The plan was designed by the libertarian organization, the Goldwater Institute. After Ducey signed the bill, Goldwater CEO Darcy Johnson wrote in an email to supporters that the group would get the student cap even higher than 30,000. Critics say that these types of voucher programs take away from public school by diverting funds to private schools, many of which are run by education management companies, some even traded on stock markets. But Ducey defended his decision yesterday at a meeting where he claimed that he didn't deceive taxpayers about his support for voucher programs. Ducey also maintains that he intends to get K-12 public school teachers the resources they need, including increased salaries. The salaries may be low, but the bright side is that each teacher gets a fifth of scotch per month to be used after school hours. Arizona Senator Jeff Flake is seeking more funding for Veterans Justice Outreach Specialists. The specialists work with veterans treatment courts nationwide to help design programs for struggling veterans. Flake visited a Mesa treatment center on Monday, where he said he was astounded by, quote, how many organizations and individuals are here to help. When veterans go through the program, they can get their charges dropped, which are commonly related to drug possession. Attorney General Mark Brnovich also supports the programs, saying that this is the least of what veterans deserve. Flake is asking for enough funding to add at least 50 more specialists. He will then see to it that the funding gets misappropriated and lost amidst the VA bureaucracy. And speaking of Mark Brnovich, he says the state needs major criminal justice reform. Brnovich said that Arizona needs to put greater emphasis on recidivism, meaning when criminals reoffend and end up back in jail. While the nation's recidivism rate hovers near 50%, Arizona's rate is actually much lower at about 37%. He asked, quote, "We call it the correction system, but how many people are actually being corrected?" Brnovich questioned a system that makes offenders unemployable after they leave prison with no skills except in the illicit economy. However, Brnovich said he has little choice when it comes to violent offenders because they need to be locked up. He said he supports drug treatment and other diversion programs in regards to nonviolent crime, but he said that it's up to Arizona lawmakers to put this plan into place and implement the changes. Instead, Arizona lawmakers are figuring out innovative ways to prevent marijuana from being legalized and how to funnel more money into the private prison industry. Tucson may be getting their own bike share program by the end of this year. Bike share programs exist in many other cities, including New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. Users pay a small fee to rent out bikes by the hour or by the day and return them to a kiosk for other users to rent. Phase 1 of the program will install between 30 and 36 stations, with most stations being located downtown, but some stretching as far east as Reed Park. The program will cost $1.3 million to provide bikes and build the stations. There will also be stations at the U of A campus and one in South Tucson. During the first phase, officials hope to have 300 to 360 bikes in operation. Prices have not yet been worked out, but they typically cost about $8 for a day pass, $15 for a monthly pass, and $80 for a yearly membership. Hopefully, they budgeted a few million for all the popped tires from Arizona's famous road craters. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about the program you're watching right now. Here at 5120, we are undertaking a new kind of citizen journalism. We're going to give you the news as we see it, and we want more people to speak up with us. We need writers, hosts, anchors, camera people, sound people, the whole gamut. The times require a new way of informing ourselves, so join us. Do it now. Email us at info@creativetucson.org to get involved. And if you think there's a story we're missing, a person we should interview, an upcoming event we should cover, or have any news tips for us, shoot us an email to info@creativetucson.org. We are here for you, and we want to cover all stories from all points of view. So don't be strangers. Now in national and international news, The Washington Post reported last night that the FBI got a secret order to monitor the communications of former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. The order was part of an investigation into links between the Trump campaign and Russia, according to U.S. officials cited in the report. The FBI and Justice Department obtained the warrant in July from a FISA court after convincing them there was probable cause to believe that Page was working on behalf of Russia. So far, this is the clearest link between the campaign and Russia, a charge which Trump has denied almost daily in interviews and on Twitter. Page has not yet been accused of a crime, so it's unclear whether the Justice Department will seek charges against him. Page has also repeatedly denied wrongdoing and has said he has nothing to hide. FISA warrants are notoriously difficult to get, as there needs to be firm evidence of wrongdoing. In this case, the government's application was hundreds of pages long. In it, they describe a meeting between Page and Russian intelligence operatives in New York City in 2013. These contacts surfaced when the FBI was investigating a separate espionage case involving the Russian agents. Also, in July, Page traveled to Moscow, where he delivered a speech that criticized the U.S. policy towards Russia. While there, Page met with Igor Sechin, a close friend of Vladimir Putin, who is CEO of the Russian energy company Rosneft, according to the dossier compiled by a British intelligence officer. So far, Page is the only American connected with the Trump campaign that is being openly investigated. Page said he's honored by the distinction and looks forward to being in future history textbooks. The Trump administration plans to keep some parts of the Dodd-Frank bill, contradicting statements he made on the campaign trail where he promised to throw out the law. Yesterday, Trump said that, quote, "We're doing a major elimination of the horrendous Dodd-Frank regulations, keeping some, obviously, but getting rid of many." He then said that, quote, "Bankers in the room will be very happy." But one aspect of Dodd-Frank that is looking to be weakened is the role of Consumer Bureau Chief, a new position begun by Senator Elizabeth Warren. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or the CFPB, was designed to monitor private business, including the financial industry, for any wrongdoing. A bill introduced by Representative Jeb Hensarling would curtail the power of the CFPB chief, causing it to lose its independent status, and the director would be subject to termination at will by the president. Under the so-called Choice Act, the president also would be able to appoint and remove the deputy director. If the law passes, the CFPB would only be able to enforce current laws and would not be able to crack down on unfair and deceptive practices. The agency would also be forbidden from monitoring the financial markets and would no longer be able to publish its database of consumer complaints against companies. All Dodd-Frank mandated advisory boards would also be eliminated. Critics say that the bill would remove the teeth of the agency and essentially make it useless to fight corruption. The bill would also change how financial firms are monitored. They would now only have to submit to a federal stress test once every 2 years instead of doing a test every year like they have to do currently. And finally, the bill would deal out criminal penalties for leaking information related to the stress tests. But still, the financial industry is criticizing the law as a threat to the economy. Banks are requesting additional overtures in the bill, such as a corner office in the White House, a piggyback ride from the president, and the death of Elizabeth Warren. The Trump administration is considering a proposal that would get rid of the payroll tax that helps fund Social Security. This would provide a 6.2% tax cut for workers making less than $127,000 per year. Currently, that averages out to be about $3,720 a year for someone earning the median national average of $60,000 per year. This would also save employees the same amount because they are expected to match the employees' tax withholdings. While this sounds great at first, Social Security advocates worry how the system will be funded if the tax is eliminated because there's no plan to replace the funding cut. Trump has floated an idea of a value-added tax, or a VAT, which is essentially a national sales tax like they have across Europe. However, VAT taxes hit lower-income workers the hardest because it would likely increase the price of goods. A VAT would raise about $12 trillion over 10 years, according to the left-leaning Center for Budget and Policy Priorities. But they warn that the increase in prices would cancel out the value of the payroll tax cut for lower and middle-class workers. If the Trump administration also imposes a corporate tax cut, as they plan to do, the tax burden will further be shifted to the lower and middle class. While Trump has indicated that he would keep his tiny hands off Social Security, other social insurance programs appear to be in the administration's crosshairs. Budget Director Mick Mulvaney said that the Social Security Disability Insurance Program, or SSDI, is, quote, wasteful, hinting that he would be open to cutting benefits. The Trump administration has decided to sell military planes to Nigeria, reversing an Obama administration ban on the sales. Up to a dozen A-29 Super Tucano aircraft will be sold to Nigeria in order to fight Boko Haram, the militant group that has been terrorizing the southern region of the country for years. The deal comes with a $700 million price tag for Nigeria. Over 2 million people have been displaced in Nigeria from fighting between Boko Haram and government forces. The Obama administration was going to sell the planes before the Nigerian military accidentally killed 90 people, mostly women and children, in an airstrike last year. The airstrike was supposed to hit a Boko Haram headquarters, but ended up hitting a refugee camp where an aid distribution was taking place by the charity group MSF. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari announced the sale after his first phone call with Trump last month. In his defense, Trump actually thought he was talking to the president of South Africa, which confused Buhari when Trump began praising Nelson Mandela during the call. The deal will still need to be approved by Congress before it can go through. According to Reuters, a congressional source says that there still remain serious concerns about human rights with the Nigerian government. However, the same source said that an additional $700 million in spending would make those concerns disappear real quick. On April 14th, the city of San Francisco plans to challenge the Trump administration's sanctuary city policy. Trump established the policy in an executive order in January, which would penalize cities who refuse to comply with federal immigration enforcement. White House spokesman Sean Spicer said that federal funding would be stripped for any cities declaring themselves a sanctuary city, which includes San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, and Boston. According to the Washington Post, there are between 165 and 608 municipalities who consider themselves sanctuary cities. San Francisco is receiving support from 34 municipalities and a host of nonprofit social welfare groups in their court case. The suit is similar to the cases against Trump's travel ban in that the order was drafted hastily and without input from the proper legal channels. But it goes beyond those cases in that it cites violations of the 10th Amendment, which gives powers to states and municipalities. The 10th Amendment holds limits on the federal government to those spelled out in the Constitution, which would not be covered under Trump's order. One lawyer for the plaintiff said that even if Congress were to pass a law on the issue, it would still remain unconstitutional because of the 10th Amendment violations. Justice Department lawyers have said so far that the order does not, quote, change existing law, meaning that Trump's action was really symbolic more than anything else. However, this hasn't put sanctuary cities at ease since they don't know for sure whether their funding will be cut or not. Many cities have drafted budgets with the assumption that their funding would be taken away if they continue with their present immigrant-friendly policies. It appears that the order is intended more to scare cities into complying with federal law, an issue you would think libertarians would be against. But so far, there hasn't been much of an outcry from the libertarian members of Congress. When asked about the case, Trump took to Twitter and questioned whether the 10th Amendment even exists. A group of military lawyers are suing the Pentagon over what they claim was a release of dangerous carcinogens at the Guantanamo Bay prison. At least 7 people have been treated or have died from cancer over the 15 years they worked at Guantanamo. The lawsuit charges that the U.S. Navy failed to investigate health hazards after the high cancer rates were known. It claims that the dangerous chemicals were present at the ironically named Camp Justice, where lawyers work on the cases of accused terror prisoners. Camp Justice was built on a former airstrip that was used as a jet fuel dumping site. It's also surrounded by old buildings that contain asbestos. A 2015 study found evidence of mercury and formaldehyde in air samples, while soil samples contained benzoprene, all of which are carcinogenic. The suit claims that the Navy failed to test 84 out of 100 trailer units for formaldehyde. Michael Schwartz, a former Air Force captain who is now a military lawyer, said that the abandoned runway contains toxins that are known to cause serious disease and death. Another lawyer, Daniel Small, says that these soldiers signed up to do some of the hardest legal work and deserve better. Military lawyers ask that the military complete testing and compile a risk assessment, then require reasonable health standards. In July of 2015, a former Guantanamo attorney raised concerns that the compound was linked to the 7 cases of cancer. Then, a Miami Herald investigation found 12 people who had suffered different cancers after working at the compound. However, a Navy investigation at the time said that a link between the camp and cancer risk could not be determined. Later, the Navy admitted it couldn't be determined because they never got around to investigating. Remember the days when we used to argue about gay marriage? Aren't you glad those days are over? Well, not in North Carolina, where Republican lawmakers are proposing a bill that would ban gay marriage in the state. Representatives Larry Pittman, Michael Speziale, and Carl Ford introduced the Uphold Historical Marriage Act yesterday, but stood a healthy arm's length apart from each other so nobody got any wrong ideas. The bill says that the Supreme Court, quote, overstepped its constitutional bounds when they declared same-sex marriage legal in 2015. In the Obergefell versus Hodges decision, the Supreme Court also struck down Amendment 1 of North Carolina's Constitution. Amendment 1 prohibits the state from recognizing or performing same-sex marriages or civil unions. The amendment was approved by 60% of the state's voters in 2012. The bill also says that the Supreme Court violated the, quote, decree of Almighty God that a man shall leave his father and his mother and is united with his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Yes, a congressional bill says that. Next week, Pittman will introduce the No God But God Act that will criminalize taking the Lord's name in vain. This was Luc Goodhart. Next up, join Jeff Weber, Tucson's creative director, for a special Q&A. Good night, Tucson.
All right, you ready, man? Okay, you guys. Hello, everybody. I'm here with Jeff Weber.
Jeff Weber.
He's the important one. I just here to talk to Jeff. So Jeff Weber, the director of Creative Tucson.
Here we are.
Thanks for having me on to ask you
Absolutely.
questions.
Yeah, welcome.
What we'll do real quick Q&A. There's a lot of questions that come up at the classes,
Every
online.
Saturday.
Yeah, every Saturday. So we want to get those out and he'll give us concrete answers, right? Hopefully.
Somewhat.
And it'll be easier for everyone to just interact that way.
Or make everything a whole lot more confusing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
We'll try.
that's a good point. Okay, so Jeff, first question for you.
Hi.
This is an easy one.
Okay.
What is Creative Tucson?
Creative Tucson is a community media partnership with Brink Studios. Right now we're downtown in Brink Media Studios.
Right now.
We're partnered with KXCI and Wave Lab Studios, and we all have come together to do something really special to put on Channel 20.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Good answer. Let's say I'm someone that wants to get involved.
Okay.
How do I do that? What are the steps?
Come here on a Saturday. We have orientations every Saturday at 9:30, or you can shoot me an email at jeff@brink.com or info@creativetucson.org.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
The .org,
And they can send you anything.
anything. Yeah.
But hopefully
any
you'll
question.
answer a lot of the questions here
Hopefully today, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you want to get started, talk to me. Come to the orientation. Come see us. Maybe do the news 5 days a week. 5 on 20. We start at 3:30. That's an invitation.
Yeah,
so.
come and see the setup
Yeah.
of this.
Exactly.
The table will be there. So this is a big one. This is where we start getting into the good stuff. Is Creative Tucson public access?
Creative Tucson is a public access network. Creative Tucson is not the same thing as Access Tucson. As you know, we have to define that a lot. We're not Access Tucson, but Creative Tucson is public access. If you play by the rules, if you come to orientation, if you do the equipment handling class, anybody can come and make stuff with us, use our equipment.
Perfect.
It's open to the public for sure.
And you kind of answered it in terms of the next question was, is Creative Tucson the new Access Tucson?
No, Access Tucson is a separate organization. They ran the public access network in Tucson for something like 30 years, but now this new trifecta partnership of Brink, Wave Lab, and KXCI have taken over the reins.
Yeah, the triangle, the trifecta.
It's a trifecta.
The Bermuda
Yeah.
Triangle of creatives.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
get lost and then find yourself, and it's like amazing.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is a big one.
Okay.
Will Creative Tucson be renting equipment and providing studio space to their members once they become members?
Absolutely, you bet. If you come, like I said, you do the equipment class with us, that's the only prerequisite, and from there on you can rent equipment with us whenever. So we're open 5 days a week, actually 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday.
Yeah, this is Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
always available to rent equipment.
Right, but it also says studio space.
And studio space.
Yeah.
So back to that trifecta,
Right.
Brink Studios, the studios we're in right now, is available to rent for $75 an hour.
Okay.
Or you can also rent KXCI or Wave Lab for the same fee.
Perfect. So how does, this is a good one.
Okay,
Let's
let's
say
hear
you
it.
come into the studio, you're making stuff,
all right.
you're shooting stuff, you're making stuff, you're running gear, maybe you're coming in, maybe you're making stuff
Yeah.
outside. How do you get that on the air?
How do you get that on the air?
Yeah.
You create an account, and then once you have a standard membership or Prime membership, you upload that content, and if we like it, it's on the air.
Oh, what if you don't like it?
If if the board doesn't pass it, it's just gonna live online.
And this is where the board gathers.
This is where the board gathers.
right here, yeah.
Actually, back in there.
Okay,
But-
but yeah, if content is like decent,
Basically-
and not like then
if it's
you'll throw it on
HD,
there.
if it looks good,
Yeah.
we don't care about the content of what you're actually saying, but if there's any production value at
Right.
all, will end up on TV.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And you know what? If for some reason they're not producing what is getting shown on air, then they can come in on a Saturday again, and then get some more
Exactly.
advice, get some
Yeah.
more learning.
And that's why we're not Access Tucson, because the main thing is you come to our classes, we teach you how to use our equipment, and then you're making quality content.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so does Creative Tucson own the content that people submit?
What's going on?
You're
Are we live?
See that
Yes,
red
we're
light?
All right, that's cool.
we're not live on television. We're recording.
All right,
That's fine.
Keep going, you guys.
Can you?
Good
Okay,
job.
let's talk about. Thanks, Danny.
The red light. That question.
Okay, okay. Let's say people
Where's
make stuff,
Syra?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Come on, please. Okay. So once people
Yes.
make it, what are the right? What are people's rights? Who owns the content?
So you still own your content if you upload something to Creative Tucson. We just want to play it. We're desperate to have your content on Channel 20. Have
I
it
like your
online.
honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't own the rights.
Okay.
Not at all.
That's cool. So they can still like submit it to festivals and like sell it if they want
Exactly,
to.
yeah.
Okay.
So if you are still shopping around your footage or something, or if you're showing it around, yeah, exactly. Like you said, festivals, yeah, you can still do all of that.
This is probably a good chance to mention that it doesn't have to be new content. So if they have a library of archived stuff they've made since they were 12.
Yeah. Your thesis from college, like we still want that on TV.
Make a
even if
profile
it
and
sucks.
throw it on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can make an anonymous profile. We would love, if it's Tucson based, Arizona oriented, whatever, for sure.
Yeah, that's good. Cool.
Stuff, new
So
stuff.
only a couple more. So how can people tune? This is a big one. How can people tune in to
How
the
can people
broad
tune in?
Creative Tucson? How do they see all this stuff?
So, however you're watching right now, I don't know how it is, how you're watching this,
Same.
but you can watch us that way or on Channel 20
Yeah.
or Channel 74 if you have Comcast and live in Oro Valley, or online at creativetucson.org. There's a live feed. So there's a lot
When
of
you go to the
options.
watch section, yeah,
There's
there's
a
that
watch
live.
section, yeah, and so.
And that's where also where all the channels are.
And where all the channels are, so you can go back and watch an archive of everything. But there's that continuous stream of local content that's always rolling, always going.
Yeah, it's huge stream, lame stream. Last question for you.
Yeah.
This is the most important that they would say. Of course, they'd save this for last.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are the copyright restrictions for TV? Because I know TV is
Copyright.
like, oh, there's a lot of laws, right?
It's weird. There's laws. Yeah, it's kind of like radio. So the big thing is like you have to own your own content, and so that's why we're awesome, because we have that connection with WaveLab, so you can record music like high quality with Craig or with Chris there to help you, or you can record your voiceovers at WaveLab or at KXCI. But yeah, you need to make all the content.
Okay.
So if you have a song from somebody else or something, it's going to get booted. It's not going to make it onto TV, and it's just going to live on the internet forever. No one's going to see it.
Like many things.
Yeah, like many things.
Yeah.
So make your own stuff or remix.
Yeah, make your own stuff.
Heavily remix.
Yeah, we
Exactly.
are the remix culture.
We are the remix.
We are,
culture.
this
Yeah.
generation. Cool, that's all I got for you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yes, if you have any other questions for Jeff, email
Yeah.
him. What are your emails again?
Jeff at Brink, info@creativetucson.org.
Either one of those. Do not email me. Yeah, hit up Saturdays. Those are really important.
Saturdays.
Learn gear, make stuff, get it on Creative Tucson. We're looking for you.
Yep.
Maybe get a hat, buy a hat.
Cheers.
Support us. We're basically like the new PBS.
Joe Cox. Thanks.
Joe. All right, thanks guys.
Yeah, good stuff.